Hi, my name is Arjun Chaudhary, and welcome to ENERGIZE, the tech revolution. Today, we have a very special guest amongst us. Rahul GABA is a consulting manager with the energy transition team at S&P Global. He brings over 14 years of experience in advising government entities and private sector clients on projects supporting adoption of clean energy technologies. Over the years, Rahul has provided techno-commercial advisory services and co-authored analytical studies on projects reviewing solar, microgrids, energy storage, and electrical vehicle charging technologies. Rahul holds a bachelor's in chemical engineering from the University of Delhi in India and an executive MBA from the Kellogg School of Management in Northwestern University in USA. Welcome to the show, Rahul.
Thanks for having me, Arjun. Pleasure seeing you here
Yeah,
and being with
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. The purpose of this podcast today would be on renewable energy, on electricity, and power generation. Now, Rahul, before we dive into your professional experience, I would love for you to provide some context to our viewers and listeners on what is renewable energy, what are the different categories of renewable energy, what is the global landscape, the North American landscape as far as renewable energy is concerned, and why is it important?
Sure, let's just dive into it right away. Importance of renewable energy lies in its ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reliance on fossil fuels, making it a critical component to tackle the biggest problem of our times, climate change. Clean tech, clean energy, or renewable energy, as we call it, Arjun, encompasses a range of clean technologies such as solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, bioenergy, and now we have green hydrogen and whatnot. So a lot of new innovations happening and becoming part of the entire bouquet of clean tech, as we are calling it, or energy transition technologies, as some also like to call it. The landscape for renewable energy globally is rapidly evolving in 2024, driven by a combination of government policies, tech advancements, as mentioned, and growing awareness of climate change. So, if we were to, draw a global map and see which countries, which regions are seeing great adoption of it, so regions like Europe, where specific countries such as Germany, Denmark, they are global leaders in solar and wind energy adoption. There is US, of course, making strides, particularly in wind powered. China is investing heavily in solar. It's the largest manufacturer of solar panels and a lot of other clean technologies globally. Emerging markets such as India and others in Southeast Asia, APAC region, also in South America, they're also adopting these technologies to increase energy access and also to make their country to achieve energy security for the country. So increasing adoption globally.
Thank you for sharing that, Rahul, and for providing that context. Now let's learn a little bit more about your professional journey. You've been in the renewable energy space for quite some time now. What inspired you and excited you to pursue a career track in the renewable energy space?
For me, Arjun, it started way back in my Bachelor of Engineering days. I was pursuing a research internship in Germany, and I was majoring in chemical engineering with a specialization in polymer science. And my professor asked me to consider a project for fabricating organic solar cells. So solar cells made of organic polymers instead of silicon and germanium, which is prevalent, even till date. And back then it was such a novel thing. And I was able to, identify a group that was working on it in another university, collaborate with them, and was a very interesting 2 month internship project that got me initiated into this field. And returning back home, I pursued that as my bachelor thesis in my home university, and later on received opportunity to work on commercial renewable energy, projects at commercial scale, which led me have a greater appreciation for a lot of other fields besides just science and technology that go into making these big changes possible. So, working on a range of projects from solar feasibility studies to energy efficiency programs reinforced my, passion in the field. And I realized that renewable energy was not just a sector; it was a critical solution to major problems of our times. And very recently, receiving an award from Association of Energy Engineers for my work in the field, kind of became a pivotal moment for me that confirmed my career choices, and also the little bit of impact that I was making in the energy transition, in the region where I was working. So has been a growing journey since then.
Such an amazing story, Rahul, and many congratulations on your recognition and award. Now, could you share more about some of the specific projects you worked on? Who are your customers, and what locations were your customers? And would love to hear that.
Sure. Happy to share. So I worked on a variety of renewable energy projects across multiple geographies during my career so far. And in Canada, I've managed energy efficiency programs, solar feasibility studies, designed and implemented programs around that. I have worked on analytical reports to achieve energy savings, as well as to direct investments and utility decisions around implementation of such technologies. I have also been involved in pilot projects, showcasing demonstration of new technologies such as fuel cell. Back in the day when I was in India, we worked on a project which was funded by a US agency to demonstrate a new technology in India, which was a combination of methanol-based fuel cells and solar and lithium batteries to power telecom towers as an off-grid solution at that time. So, in a sense, it has been a combination of pilot demonstration and analytical reports to guide investment decisions and provide solutions to the problems in the sector, to design and implement programs, as well as working with utilities on specific consulting studies that have come across my desk. So, and technologies, I have had opportunity to work on solar, wind, waste to energy projects, and not just power generation. Very recently, I've worked on projects supporting transactions for manufacturing, which is the supply chain aspect of clean tech.
That's great to hear, Rahul. Such a wide array of experience there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, could you walk us through step by step of what a typical renewable project would look like, the various phases, the teams involved, the key stakeholders, and the typical duration of a renewable energy project?
Sure. So for the purpose of this discussion, Arjun, we are, just to clarify, we are talking about a power generation project. So be it solar, wind, or any other, clean tech. For a typical, power generation project, the work for it starts with a feasibility study, where we would assess the technical and financial viability of the project. And that will be followed by permits and funding, whatever local permits are needed. And then comes the design and engineering phase, where a team of engineers and financial analysts and environmental consultants, they collaborate to analyze the project. And once that is over, it is followed by construction, where you see project managers on ground, contractors, suppliers, working closely to execute the plan that has been laid before them. And key stakeholders, in all of this would be project developers, investors, who are putting money into it, regulators that are providing, clearances to all the project plans, local communities that are impacting and involved in the initiative, and of course, the utility companies or the grid owners that are going to support the offtake of power from that project if it's a grid connected project. In case it's an off-grid, small-scale renewable energy project, then utility involvement is way less. But for a grid connected, it's much more. And typical duration for such a project ranges from 12 to 24 months, depending upon, of course, the scale and size and specific location where the project is being planned and deployed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul. So in terms of, the challenges that are being experienced in the renewable energy sector, could you shed some light on that?
Of course, in my professional journey of last 14, 15 years, I have seen the sector facing a lot of challenges. A lot of them have actually been overcome, but there are some that still remain. With renewable, as you would understand, it's only when you have the resource available, the power can be generated. So when the sun shines, you can have the panel producing energy. When the wind blows, you can have the windmill, turbine producing energy. So Intermittency because of that is something that is kind of inevitable. But at the same time, there are solutions for balancing that intermittency by using energy storage technologies. But intermittency still is a challenge. So balancing the supply and demand with that intermittent generation can be tricky. Storage, as I said, plays a critical role but although it's still an evolving technology in terms of how many hours of storage you would need for a project, what technology of storage can be used, what is the cost for storing energy in that duration in that geography. So all of those things are very project specific, but intermittency is one key thing. Second is regulatory uncertainty. I mentioned regulators as one of the key stakeholders and participants in such a project. So changes in government policies which can impact any project midway, particularly where subsidies and government incentives are involved, which actually, those are in many regions of the world, since RE projects, clean tech projects, even today are supported by government subsidies for much part. So regulatory support is another, a challenge. It's stability and certainty, that aspect. And lastly, financing can also be a hurdle, specifically in emerging markets where access to capital isn't as robust as we see in developed regions of the world. So those three are the ones that I would highlight. Of course, there are quite a few more that would depend on specific technology and problem statement we are solving and which region are we talking about.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rahul. Now let's steer our conversation towards technology a bit. In terms of, the technology and the adoption of it, renewable energy sector, how is it in terms of adoption, in terms of provision of technology in the renewable energy sector, and how is artificial intelligence being used, and what sort of innovation trends do you see happening in the renewable energy space?
Yeah, that's something I was expecting to discuss. With AI, making its way into every discussion or every sectoral conversation these days. Of course, clean tech itself is an area, is a sector that is rapidly seeing innovation in multiple ways. All of these technologies are getting more efficient in terms of the efficiency of production, of converting the natural resource to electricity. So that efficiency is one. Use of new materials is another aspect of technology that's playing its critical role. The way cost gets reduced by use of new material, new way of manufacturing, new way of deployment. So all of these are to a good extent technology related. And AI is revolutionizing renewable energy in multiple ways. It's one way it's having a big impact is by optimizing operations of such projects and improving the grid integration. So you remember I just talked about intermittency of renewables and the way it interacts with grid. So AI algorithms can help predict energy production from such natural resources based on weather patterns very precisely and in a very much more granular way than it was possible before such algorithms were being implemented. So a good prediction, a more granular and accurate prediction can help grid operators better manage the variability of solar and wind. They can prepare the grid in a much better way. AI is also, operations is one. Second, it's also having a big positive impact in predictive maintenance aspect of such projects. So for wind turbines and solar panels, you need to have certain, O&M, the operation and maintenance schedule, and the project needs to be shut down for certain time to do that, like any other conventional generation project also. But using AI for predictive maintenance can help reduce the downtime and improve overall generation efficiency of such projects. And another aspect that I would touch upon is the battery, the energy storage thing that I mentioned. So AI is helping to optimize battery performance quite a bit in deployment, ensuring that the stored energy is utilized when it's most needed by the system. So a lot of commercial and residential scale projects are deployed where you have a time of use tariff, like in my region where I stay, you have a time of use tariff. If I were to use a storage solution and store energy when it's cheap and take it from the storage when it's costly from the grid, I'm doing an energy arbitrage. So that is a simple way of explaining it. But AI is helping to optimize battery performance in a big way than it was, possible without the use of such technology. So, in terms of deployment, operations, maintenance, working with the grid, and in terms of also selection of materials for making new systems is something that AI is being used these days, and it's having a very positive impact.
That's great to hear, Rahul, and thank you for sharing those. Now, continuing the conversation on technology, the big tech companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, they all have a renewable energy department. Could you share
Yeah.
how is renewable energy being utilized in such big tech companies?
Sure, and it's a good segue here. We talk of AI, we talk of technology, and we talk of big tech companies. So, maybe just to close the loop on that previous question, also the big tech companies actually are the first ones to also deploy AI in their renewable energy departments, as you just mentioned. And there are very frequent announcements, from say Google or Microsoft on how they are using AI on deployments of such technologies. But getting to the core of it, these companies are actually leading the change in renewable energy adoption in a very big way. They are signing power purchase agreements to directly source clean tech, the renewable energy for their data centers, which are heavy consumers of power. So, this data center power consumption is also being led by these power consumption from AI models. So, the power that we require to train these models at such a large scale. So you see the loop, AI being a heavy guzzler of power in data centers, those models, and then also helping, the results of those models helping to deploy renewable energy in a more efficient way. So it's contributing back in that sense. But to your question, yes, these big tech companies, wherever they are, having a new data center now, new footprint of data center, they are sourcing energy from renewables. They have their own internal goals. For example, Google has been carbon neutral since 2007, as you may know, and it aims to run entirely on carbon-free energy by 2030. Microsoft is, for instance, investing in RE to power its data centers and has committed to being carbon negative by 2030. So that's another major milestone they have. And similarly, Amazon and other tech companies have their own sustainability and clean tech adoption targets. These companies are driving demand for renewable energy in a massive scale, making these companies a key player in the global energy transition that we are seeing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul. Now shifting our conversation to some on the career side. If, for example, you're such a seasoned leader in the renewable energy space. Now, if a new graduate engineer wanted to follow the same career path that you did and become proficient in the renewable energy space, what sort of advice would you have for them? I mean, what sort of a career trajectory would they have in terms of, building skill sets? What functional roles should they target? Any types of gold standard certifications you'd recommend? Would love to hear more from you on that.
Sure. Happy to share my thoughts from my professional journey on that. Just taking a step back, I would say clean tech sector, renewable energy, no matter how science oriented or tech oriented it sounds, but it's not just for engineers. That's a statement I would want to put out there for your listeners. As I have worked in this sector, I have developed appreciation for a lot of other domains and people with expertise, in those domains. Because it's more about making change possible, making big things possible. That's, I would say, is at the core of it. Technology innovation is happening in different fields, and of course, it's a very integral part of clean tech, deployment and innovation. But at the same time, we would need people who are proficient in finance, to make those commercial arrangements, to make project finance possible. We need people adept in, law and legal language to help draw out those intricate contracts, because this is a domain in which sometimes policy advancement leads technology. Somewhere you have regulators making a new rule, and technology making it possible, practically on ground. Or sometimes you have a new technological capability that's understood a little later by regulators, and they figure out how to actually, help deploy it. And technology leads and regulation lags. But the point being that you need people from different domains to work together, to collaborate, to make things, possible on ground for this change and for these deployments. For specifically, speaking for new engineers, I would say co-ops and internships are a great way to explore what area, like in terms of if there is any specific technology such as solar, wind, energy storage, or hydro for that matter, or hydrogen now. Which one of these excites you more, interests you more? Although, wherever you go, you would find a lot of these playing out together, or electric vehicle these days being part of the conversations, uptake of electric vehicle and the charging infrastructure that is getting deployed of great interest. So co-ops and internships can be good for entry point into the sector. And then, of course, you learn quite a bit on the job, but at the same time, certifications like certified energy manager from AE that I completed is something very useful for people who would be working on energy efficiency projects. And certified red screen expert was another certification that I did from AE, Association of Energy Engineers, that trains you on software simulation to map out and figure out what solution to deploy, where to deploy. For people working in energy procurement, there is a certification by GARP on energy risk management professional, as I say, ERP. There are, of course, short courses by a lot of other universities that one can use to specialize in their specific area of interest. But I would leverage for new engineers working for co-op, working in co-op opportunities, picking up internships in your area of interest, demonstrating your performance, and identifying that which the companies that are locally in your region deploying these solutions, that working with them can help you build experience, and at the same time being part of networking events, conferences, a lot of green discussions, green drink discussions, as they call it. I've been part of many. So that networking, is something that even an early or mid-career professional can leverage quite a bit. And I see people, making use of it, at least here in North America, a lot, to have conversations, to make connections and identify new opportunities. So I don't know if I responded to your question specifically. I was being wholesome here in my response, sharing my perspective, but also suggesting, a few ways that have helped me, internships or short courses as new area emerges, and then, going back to school or picking up something online to learn about it, and then also professionally finding, a way to kind of put it into practice, and then, proving your mettle that way.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Rahul, and appreciate all your insights. So thanks for sharing that. So that concludes the formal portion of our interview for today. We like to end our podcast with a fun segment called a rapid fire, where we get the opportunity to learn a little bit more about our guests, on the personal side of things. So as part of this rapid fire, I'd be asking you three quick questions. Are you ready?
For sure, I am. Yes.
Great. Well, firstly, as this is a tech podcast, Rahul, would love to hear, what's perhaps an app or a hardware product that you enjoy using?
So maybe I would take that app for a software. I have been using Red Screen quite a bit. I'm a fan of it. It was developed by Government of Canada, and getting formal training in it allowed me to explore it much more than I would have done otherwise. So it's a clean energy management software that helps with feasibility analysis and project optimization. I would say it's crucial for anyone working in this space.
Great, Rahul. Thanks. Secondly, what's a book that you read that has a big impact on your life, and why?
In reference to the discussion that we are having for energy transition, I would say the book Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. It's been my favorite. for a lot of reasons. It's a brilliant book that explains, why companies fail to innovate. And I think that's highly relevant to energy transition. It covers aspects of disruptive innovation and sustaining innovation, market entrants and incumbents, the shifts in customer needs. So a lot of things that are very relevant to the clean tech sector that we are, discussing today. So it's my favorite.
Great, Rahul. And lastly, do you have any final words of wisdom, perhaps a short story or quote that you'd like to share with members of our audience?
Sure. One that comes to mind in reference to a lot of change related discussion that we are talking about. So I would say something that I read on one of my business leaders' desk calendar at a point in my career, which says, if you take responsibility of your actions, you give yourself immeasurable power. And I find that quote very powerful, very deep and it's applicable in a lot of situations where you are driving change. You're looking for change either in your career path, you're looking for a new to make an impact in a new domain. I think it's very important. It's about taking accountability and empowering one's own self.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that quote, Rahul. So that concludes our interview for today. How can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
I'm always happy to chat with people passionate about clean tech and otherwise, also to make new connections. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me.
Great, Rahul. Well, thank you so much for joining our show today. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure having you. And thank you so much for sharing your subject matter expertise on renewable energy. From the team at ENERGIZE, wishing you and the entire energy transition team of S&P Global lots of growth and lots of success.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arjun. Thanks a lot for having me. And likewise, my very best wishes for your podcast initiative. May you energize a lot of new discussions and a lot of new domains. Very best wishes to you and the team for growth and success in future.
Thank you so much, Rahul. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our episode for today. And remember, you're one product away from transformation. I'm Arjun Chaudhary.